10 years ago,
we started from here.
To believe in your dreams,
to invest in you and add value,
to build a community
that ignites innovation.
we create opportunities and we become your partner.
So your journey
becomes our journey. Your challenges
we face as our own.
Your achievements we'll celebrate together.
In Cairo,
Riyadh,
Abu Dhabi,
Beirut,
Tunis,
Bahrain,
and Amman.
We are Flat6Labs.
we are accelerating the future.
Hello everyone. As we celebrate Flat6Labs' 10th anniversary, I'm very excited to be introducing Flat6Labs' 10-year impact report. This report showcases our journey so far and how Flat6Labs has supported thousands of entrepreneurs over the past 10 years. We are very proud of what we have achieved, as Flat6Labs has played a pivotal role in accelerating innovation across the MENA region. And we can't wait to share with you the results of our impact and what we have learned throughout this journey in this very special report. And now I would like to pass the mic over to my colleague Dina.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and thank you for your interest in the Flat6Labs story over the past decade. This report is not just numbers, but it really is a story. It's a story of our growth, of our lessons learned, of our achievements, of expansions across the Middle East, of an ambition that was built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. It might seem numbers, but it's also really a struggle of creating an asset class that can support all the ambitious around the region and emerging markets to grow their business. Without further ado, I'll leave the numbers to my colleague Nahla to tell you what Flat6Labs has been busy doing over the past 10 years.
Thank you, Dina. I can honestly say that Flat6Labs has definitely gone through an inspiring journey in the past 10 years. The journey has begun with only one office in Egypt and accelerating only 5 startups, to expanding in 6 new locations in the MENA region and investing in over 300 innovative startups. We are proud that Flat6Labs stands today as one of the most active seed fund investors and a true passionate supporter of entrepreneurs and aspiring founders in the region. To date, Flat6Labs has been able to manage a total of $85 million as assets under management from supportive investors and partners, and has generated an impressive combined interest rate of return of 23%, also achieving its first exit in less than 18 months from the date of investment, and selecting an outstanding and unique portfolio of startups, raising twice or more of our initial invested capital by 2021, with a regional market cap of $450 million. It's also amazing how Flat6Labs has grown by starting with a small team in Cairo to currently employing many highly dedicated team members across the MENA region, and proudly sustaining a 53% of its staff as females. You can find more details about all what I mentioned in the report, but let me quickly walk you through the report structure. So the report is divided into 10 different sections. Each section showcases the great effort of Flat6Labs in creating impactful investments and supporting the regional entrepreneurial ecosystem. Some of the key highlights of this report portrays Flat6Labs' journey, history, and timeline of its great expansion across 7 locations, starting off with only 1 office in Egypt, to its first regional expansion to Saudi Arabia, then to the UAE, Lebanon, Tunisia, Bahrain, until our recent reach to Jordan. Details about this journey, as well as our regional impact and offerings, could be found in the introduction section. Moving on to the methodology section, I know many of you are wondering, what is the secret recipe of Flat6Labs? Well, we are gladly sharing with everyone an extensive methodology that explains the vision and values that guide Flat6Labs operations, as well as the engagement models used to streamline systems for its startups, and the monitoring and evaluation techniques used to look over Flat6Labs and portfolio-wide performance. Equally as important, we discuss Flat6Labs' environmental, social, and governance, the ESG factors, and strategy to show how we are keen on considering impact investment to attract similar investors to us and into our startups, as well as our performance and decision-making in light of the great pandemic COVID-19 response. We also wanted to share with you a deeper dive into each of our offices' activities and performance in the local market, such as our first exit in Egypt, as well as its various program offerings to the entrepreneurs. These details could be found under the locations section. If you are interested in learning more about Flat6Labs investment impact, which includes our investment vehicles and our supportive limited partners, you can go to the funds and investment section. This is where we proudly present our portfolio of 26% social impact startups, the 38% female-led startups supported in all our programs, and the $70 million raised as follow-on funding across the region, as a result of our dedication to growing our startups in the market. The next section is the programs section, showcasing our 20 diverse programs that fall under 3 main types, which are 1. The seed programs, which lists all of our services from ticket investments to follow-on funding, and the regional and international exposure we secure for our portfolio startups. 2. Accelerator programs, which features our customized programs we delivered with our corporate partners. And 3. The ecosystem development programs, which features one of our biggest ecosystem programs in Flat6Labs, which is the Start Egypt program. We also wanted to feature some of our portfolio startups and share with you their current and up-to-date activities in the market across our top sectors we invest in. This is under the portfolio section. As for Flat6Labs ecosystem local, regional, and international engagements, did you know that we have collaborated with 10 governmental entities and engaged with over 185 investors and had over 1,000 mentors guiding our startups? If you want to know more, you can find it under the stakeholders section. Finally, to know more about Flat6Labs' futuristic vision and plans, you can find it under Flat6Labs' next 10 years section, discussing further expansions across Africa. We finally end the report with a special section dedicated to all our supporters, from our LPs, board and committee members, current and former team members, our mentors and startups, to our strong supportive arm of service provider. All this is under the acknowledgement section. These are just the highlights of the report. I assure you it's a page-turner in learning the impressive and astonishing journey of Flat6Labs in the past 10 years. Lastly, I would like to give a big shout out to all my colleagues in Flat6Labs and most importantly the M&E team for their great contribution and important role in the development of this notable report. You can find more information on our impact report over the past 10 years and download the free full report from our website. And by the way, we have a very interesting chat with Flat6Labs founders. See you! everyone. Today we have a fireside chat with our Flat6Labs founders, and I have prepared some questions for us to learn more about Flat6Labs' journey. I'm sure everyone is as excited as I am. So let me introduce the founders of Flat6Labs, starting off with Ahmed Al-Alfi, co-founder of Flat6Labs, Hani Sumbati, co-founder and chairman, Ramez Sirafi, chief executive officer, and Dina Shinoufi, chief investment officer. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Hani, I'd like to start off with you. Could you tell us Flat6Labs' story? What inspired you and Alfie to start Flat6Labs? And just tell us all the journey that you have gone through.
Well, what inspired us to start Flat6Labs was that myself and Alfie saw that there's a great need to finance and nurture and develop the great talent at the grassroots level that was coming up when we started this 10 years ago. There were a lot of entrepreneurs who had wonderful ideas, who had a lot of passion, and the grit to change the world, and we wanted to be part of their journey, and we wanted to find the best mechanism to help them. And we came up with the idea of doing a seed fund plus a program, and Flat6Labs was born.
You must be proud. You only started off in Egypt, and then now you're over the MENA region. So yeah, you must be proud of that.
I am very proud of that. It's one of the best things I've done in my life, but I've had unbelievable support from friends and family and colleagues that are integral to this journey. It wouldn't have happened without them.
Thank you. And Alfie, I wanted to know, as a founder of Sawari Ventures, could you tell us what is the relation between Sawari and Flat6Labs, and how do we work together?
The most important thing is Sawari is an investor in Flat6Labs fund, an LP in the fund. Above that, we have common shareholders between the two companies, and they work closely together. Sawari looks at Flat6's pipeline and the company's graduating, and the two ideas started a little bit almost at about the same time, which is in, the focus groups were done in 2010, about 11 years ago from today, and we launched 10 years ago. So it's been an interesting journey, and I think the most important comment I'd like to add is that this group of 4 people has been together for 10 years, which is very rare in our ecosystem, for a team to be together for so long and to work so well together and to really support each other for that long.
True, definitely. And Ramez, I wanted to know, so now that we are located in 7 different locations across the MENA region, could you tell us what were the biggest challenges that we faced?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes back to our model of how we expand, right? So we study each market that we're entering. Sometimes the opportunity presents itself, so we find a partner or a potential partner who reaches out to us. And actually, I think in the lifetime of Flat6Labs, almost all the locations where we are, we always have this interesting story of how everything started. When it comes to working on the ground, definitely takes us a bit of time to launch in any location because we actually fundraise. So we build all the right relationships and we secure the capital for a few years to come, to be able to invest in the startups that go through Flat6Labs. And Flat6Labs almost was like the first mover in almost all the locations where we actually are operating today. So we are with the first almost private accelerator in Egypt. I think we're the first ones to introduce the word accelerator to the market. I remember our first demo day when we held it, people asked what is the demo day? Why are you calling it demo day? Are you showing us any demos? And I remember we thought we actually need to have demos at the beginning. So I think educating the market is very important, and the Flat6Labs definitely played this role since 2011 up till today. We actually try to go to each new market and add value, see where the gaps are, fill in these gaps in terms of seed capital, building the right relationships or the different community aspects that a startup needs to be able to start and grow. And definitely the long-term support. And as you know, we always position ourselves as investor first or institutional co-founders rather than just a program that startup enters and leaves. So we stay with them for the long-term journey.
Oh, interesting. We've definitely come a very long way. Yeah. Dina, I also wanted to learn more about the investment model. Flat6Labs seems to have a very special and unique investment model. Could you tell us more about this?
Yes, absolutely. So I think our investment model is just a reflection of what Hani was saying about the inspiration for Flat6Labs. It's about how do you best support and invest in the grassroots movement, right? So we invest in founders. About 80% of the companies, they're not actually companies when we come to invest. They're two very bright individuals with, or multiple individuals with huge ambition that want to build something, and then we take these guys, put them through a program, and then give them the cash to support them. And so the idea and the investment model of Flat6Labs is how do we empower these individuals with fantastic ideas to sort of boost their growth while also make them very institutional for the follow-on investors afterwards. And so our investment is partly the program and then also the cash. And the whole notion is probably all startups at such an early stage, they require exactly the same level of support. And so you just become a lot more efficient by building that foundation in cohorts of investments, which is how Flat6Labs invests. And then when they graduate, we always say this is when the journey starts, whereby it becomes a lot more portfolio management, tailored support akin to any other later stage VC. And so we just try to find the right investment model to support a very different profile of an investment versus the Series A investment that Sawari invests in.
And Alfie, with regards to sectors, so I know that Flat6Labs is not sector specific. We mainly focus on tech-enabled startups. So, but I still want to know, in your opinion, do you think there's a specific sector that has high potential for investment, or are they all the same?
No, I think, well, a big sector that's doing very well right now because of the transformation that's happening in the country and because of how much support the regulators are giving is the fintech sector. And everybody's starting a lot of companies, and we're getting towards the tail end of that. But I think sectors that provide services to the masses, and as a result of COVID, many more people are becoming digitally more savvy. So health tech, education, logistics, many of these sectors will end up really having a big spark in the next few years. But just one footnote, I think the best entrepreneurial investment or investment in entrepreneurs that I've made and Hani made is in this team of entrepreneurs that support entrepreneurs. So investing in entrepreneurs, we invested in a company that invests in entrepreneurs, and that's really, I think, possibly the best investment.
That's true. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah. Okay, Dina, so we always tell our startups that we're not just investors, we're actually partners with them. Could you tell us more, how do we support them and how do we actually help them to grow into the market?
So I think that the statement has two levels, right? There's the relationship you build with the entrepreneurs, and it's a human relationship. Like I said earlier, I think especially at Flat6Labs level, we deal with individuals, and they're human beings. And so it's a relationship of trust that you build, of always being there, of a sense of low barriers whereby any of the founders can pick up a phone at any point, speak to any of us and seek support. But the other part of Flat6Labs is also how we, from a corporate governance perspective, we're very friendly. And so we don't have any of the preference rights that other investors would have. We take common equity as opposed to preferred shares, which means that we share exactly the same risk as the founders. We don't have any of the usual drag-along rights or harsh terms that some VC investors would ask for. Not that this is wrong or bad, but we just try to really minimize the level of what we have over and above the founders. And in terms of supporting them, I think multiple avenues. And so we try so much to give them a wish list of all the corporates. We understand fundraising is important, but we also understand that fundraising is dependent on them being able to launch their business successfully and gain the traction that they need. And so we try as much as possible to connect them to the corporates through corporate networking events. They can ask us for anyone. I don't think between the four of us, there's anyone in any institution that we can't get a hold of at some point, be it in the banks, be it in the manufacturing, everyone we're able to reach. So that's a very crucial part. We do support them in the fundraising, and so a big part of the demo day is actually showcasing these companies to the next round of investors. And we ourselves tend to support our best startups with follow-on funding that goes to show our further commitment into them and also to the wider community. And so I think it's multiple levels of a partnership.
Yeah, that's amazing, actually. All right, and Hani, I wanted to know, speaking about partnerships, I wanted to know, how do we strategically choose and select our partners? Could you tell us more about this?
The single most important thing in choosing a partner is the discussions you have to find out that you both want the same thing in the end. So aligning our motivations and aligning our journey is key. The second thing is having an honest and frank discussion with our potential partners about the potential pitfalls, the timings, what the road we think would look like, and also what we bring to the table and what we hope they would bring to the table. So that is the key in any partnership. In terms of choosing what strategic partners we want, it depends. If we go to a new country, sometimes we would want someone to help us manage Flat6Labs in that country. If we sometimes need anchor investors, we try to forge relationships with them. It is a very long, meticulous process, but at the heart of it is openness and aligning our motivations, because that's the only thing that's going to help us navigate the ups and downs of the journey.
That's very impressive.
I would add to that,
Yeah.
aligning the ethics and morality of your partners and making sure that they have the same set of core beliefs and ethics that you do is the most important thing for continuity.
Okay, and I also wanted to tell everyone that Flat6Labs has actually dealt with, or actually have made agreements with governmental institutions in each of its locations, at least one governmental institution. So this brings me to asking you, Ramez, how do we actually successfully partner with those governmental institutions, and what do we actually have in common with them?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think it happened that in almost all our locations, we got to work with the government at a certain level. And I think it's very important for our model because, like as I said, we go into a market and we're pretty much the first player. In all the countries where Flat6Labs is operating, there has always been someone at the government who's an advocate of entrepreneurship and making the capital available for entrepreneurs at a very early stage. And definitely, we try to find this advocate and basically present them with the Flat6Labs model. And most of the time, we get their support and we establish, we launch Flat6Labs under with their support. And we have many examples of this. I think in Egypt, like the Ministry of International Cooperation and actually the Ministry of Industry through the Enterprise Development Agency, they actually are supporting our fund in Egypt. The same with the US government as well through the enterprise funds in Tunisia and in Egypt. Both of them actually are LPs in our funds. In Bahrain, our main partner is the Labor Fund of Bahrain Tamkeen. Same as well in the UAE now. We're currently partnering with ADQ, which is one of the sovereign funds in Abu Dhabi. And all of them are directly investing in our funds or supporting Flat6Labs program in a certain way, which is a very unique thing because I guess like Alfie and Hani, maybe they can attest to this, like maybe 10 or 20 years ago, that wasn't a very common thing for a government to become like an investor directly into a seed fund. Maybe private equity, maybe venture capital, but like for seed investments and accelerators, that wasn't very common. And I think Flat6Labs definitely managed to position itself in a way that get all these governments to be interested in our model and see it as a great tool to build an entire ecosystem around.
Yeah, it's very impressive. Well, actually, this also takes me to investors. So now that I know that we actually have a lot of governmental institutions partnering with, for investors, how do we also maintain the relations with our investors, and how do we actually also grow our networks in the region?
So again, it's a relationship you cultivate, right? Now, I think we provide a fantastic offering for most investors that we're the pipeline. And so I think as Flat6Labs, we're in a lucky enough position whereby mostly the investors reach out to us and say, how can we get access to the pipeline? Because every single investor after us wants the pipeline. But in many ways, it's also about build. I mean, you send the invite, you try to always be in the events and meeting people, put yourself out there, and eventually it all pays off in terms of building those relationships for the startups. You pick up the phone and call people personally when there's an investment that you think is value. You understand what they want, and it's also very important because investors don't like cold calls and they don't like junk emails, and so being able to build a relationship where you speak to an investor, know exactly what sectors are their focus, what industry and what stage, are they interested in, so that when you provide the pipeline, it's relevant. This makes you a valid pipeline creation tool for the Series A investors for most of our startups.
Yeah, and actually I want to add that at least I think 40% of our startups have actually raised follow-on funding from our network. So
Exactly.
yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So moving on for the program part, I would like to tell everyone that part of Flat6Labs, we have a function that is the monitoring and evaluation function, and we do a program evaluation. And we actually found that 90% of the startups were satisfied and content with the curriculum that we have developed. So Ramez, I wanted to ask you, how do we design our curriculum?
It's a good question. I think after 10 years of accumulating knowledge and working with different startups in 7 countries, I think we have something today that doesn't look at all similar to what we started with, like in 2011. I remember when we started, we had a partnership with a university, and we got like university professors, business professors to come in and teach business concepts to our founders. It went very well, and I think that was a huge gap as well in the market because most of our founders, they came from a technology background. But I think the model evolved. I think it's not only Flat6Labs as well, I think the ecosystem at large. And many of the startups that we see coming into our programs as well, they have definitely been much more mature than the case many years ago. So I guess our curriculum has had to advance as well. So we design our curriculum. We have like the base of the curriculum for all our programs in terms of the basics, and we follow the lean startup methodology in general. But definitely we adjust it according to the cohort of the startups we have. So we see what they are lacking. Maybe they need more to learn more about sales, for example, or growth, digital growth, for example. So we focus more on this, and then we add sessions and programming around that. So it's I would say 70% set and 30% customized according to each cohort that we look at.
Yeah, I agree. I think that actually our curriculum is one of our biggest assets in Flat6Labs. Yeah, true. Also, I wanted to know what is the selection criteria that we use to select our startups, and how do we maintain choosing the right startups when it comes to even making sure that they follow the right regulatory systems and the social and environmental aspects and all that? How do we do that, and what is our selection criteria?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if Hatfi would like to take this question because I remember him saying a few times how the criteria changed over time. You remember when we started picking the founders according to interesting ideas and concepts they had. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I think we don't really do this anymore. We actually pick founders first. Okay. And definitely, and if you'd like to talk about this.
Yes, please.
I actually think it has been an evolution, as every part of this has been an evolution. Mm-hmm. The company has grown and really gotten better at what it does, and the team has gotten better. The key thing at the beginning was we said we're going to select based on how much we like the idea. Mm-hmm. And a great entrepreneur can take a bad idea and make it successful. And if we like the idea, a bad entrepreneur can really make it fail very quickly. So we shifted to focusing on entrepreneurs and teams, and not thinking that we're so smart that we're going to be able to pick a good idea. However, using all our skill to pick a good entrepreneur gives you a much higher chance of success.
And actually, speaking of selection criteria, I'd like to tell everyone that our applications are open all year long. So if you're interested and you fit the criteria, please apply through our website. Okay, and so Dina, I wanted to ask you, in the past 10 years, could you tell us which portfolio startup that was the most impressive and what is their story? Yeah.
So yeah, we don't.
If possible.
We have no.
They're all equal.
They're all equal. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, and not to dodge the question, I genuinely believe that the most impressive of them are the ones that had such perseverance. And I don't think there's a most one. The stories are multiple, but I can give you examples of one of our very early investments, Taskity, which is a simple platform for ordering your everyday needs, home services, plumbing or painting or just a simple house clean. And he's a dentist who had a month worth of bookings, and he just said, this is an opportunity, I'm quitting and I'm dedicating my life to that. And he's been in it, and he's been through a lot of rough patches. He's had multiple transactions that would fall through in the last minute, but he persevered nonetheless, and I think now fantastically growing and a market leader. There's a similar early one, and they started at times when entrepreneurship wasn't as cool as it is now, or Instabug, which is now a $100 million valued company, and 2 kids fresh out of, they were back kids, yeah, now they're not anymore. 10 years ago, fresh out of college, they had all the different sort of very, very safe, secure jobs offered to them at the Microsofts of the world, and they said, no, we had an ambition, they stuck through it, they were very smart, they kept pivoting multiple times, they listened to advice, and I think one of the best qualities of entrepreneurs is this right mix between conviction, but the agility and the shrewdness to listen to advice, take it in, assimilate, and then see what's best for you. So these are 2 fantastic examples. And then more recent, you have Bremor that took a very simple concept and spread it across all of Egypt now, generating revenues in the hundreds of millions, and employing a workforce of thousands and thousands of micro distributors, and from a very, very simple idea, and he was able to harness technology to make it such a widespread thing. And I think I can go on and on about some of the best startups that we have and how they've persevered. And Shafet, who the founders had their own personal struggles and medical conditions, and nonetheless they turned that from a weakness to a vision or an opportunity that they saw and harnessed it. So I feel like the stories are multiple, and it would be unfair to say there's only one.
True. Yeah. And I'm also sure that their traction figures and investments as follow-on funding is also as impressive as their ideas. So,
yes.
yeah.
So Bremor are announcing a multi-million-dollar round now.
Wow. Yeah.
Similarly, Shafet is soon to close their Series A investments, and most of them have attracted investors, non-Egyptian regional investors and some international as well, that saw the opportunity. And I think it also feeds on what Alfie was saying earlier, in that they both, Shafet, actually if you think of it, all of them, Instabug, Shafet, Taskity or Bremor, they've all created products that are not targeting a niche market. It's actually a very wide-based market target audience that they're addressing.
Interesting. All right. So, Hani, I know it's funny how seed funding was not really a source of funding in the past, but now it is actually one of the asset classes found in the region. Could you tell us what was the role of Flat6Labs in institutionalizing seed funding in the region?
More than 10 years ago, seed funding as a whole was very ad hoc, not just in Egypt, but across the world. There was a lot of friends and family rounds. There was angel networks were still coming to the forefront. What I think Flat6Labs did was to, for lack of a better phrase, institutionalize it. And the way we did it is that we approached it like we would approach any other investment, right? But the issue was it was an investment in companies that were at an earlier stage, so we looked for different things. We took different terms, as Dina said, and we added value in a much more concentrated, much more streamlined manner than the ad hoc nature of seed funding that was happening before. And once we put all this together, we managed to create an institutional that sole purpose is to invest in seed startups, and add value in a very, very well-defined manner. And I think that is Flat6Labs' probably its greatest contribution to the discourse of investments and ecosystem building in general.
Interesting. All right, and in your opinion, when do you think actually a startup would be mature enough to exit or to be acquired after the seed funding?
That's a very tricky question. I don't think there's a right answer that fits all. One of the key elements is what next for the startup? Can it grow? Does it require additional capital? Is this the end of the road for it? Does it need to partner with someone bigger or someone different to do it? Are the founders themselves committed to it, or they want to cash out and go to and do something different? And it's all of these issues come together. We had a founder that sold his company 12 months after it started, but he partnered with a much bigger conglomerate in order to grow, and he's growing fantastically well, and he's getting an earnout. So it's many different. There isn't really a one answer that fits all. You have to take a case-by-case basis.
Interesting. Well, I wish all our startups the best to actually try to exit from the seed funding stage. So
I wish all our startups to go on and create great companies that they're proud of, that grow, that have a market dominance, and the exit will take care of itself. That's what we advise them. Focus on your company, and the exit will take care of itself at some point or other.
So, Elfi, I wanted to ask you, through your experience in the past, what is your opinion about the maturity level and the development of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the region, and what do you hope to see in the future?
There's been a tremendous change over the last 10 years. In the early cycles, the applicants were fresh out of college or even young enough that we had to have their parents sign the documents. Right?
It's true.
Actually, yeah.
It's actually
Right?
true. Yeah.
And now the applicants are professionals who have ideas or companies or have started that have 10, 15, 20 years experience in the marketplace with family companies, multinationals, lots of different experience. There's a breadth of experience and talent. So the level of entrepreneurs starting companies today is fantastic. And I anticipate that in the future, you're going to have a lot more of the same, but you'll have entrepreneurs who will have exited companies, made money, and will be back in as second round entrepreneurs self-funding, or as entrepreneurs who are advisors, or as angel investors to a lot of companies. And it'll help make the ecosystem really an ecosystem that's self-sustaining.
Wow, yeah, let's hope so. Yeah. Okay, and also in your opinion, how do you see the next 10 years in the MENA region when it comes to the entrepreneurial ecosystem?
I think it'll continue to accelerate, and I think we may end up with some ups and downs where things get overvalued and they get undervalued, but the general trend is up, and I think that Flat6Labs has contributed to this transformation of the MENA region substantially, and I don't really think that there's anything going to stop it.
Thank you. And finally, this brings us to what is actually our plan for Flat6Labs in the next 10 years?
Okay, that's maybe the $1 billion question. See, like we are asset managers, so we will definitely keep investing from the funds that we are currently managing. And many of them that are to continue for a few years to come. We are definitely looking at how we can build value on the top of what we have achieved in terms of these assets, so maybe successor funds. We also definitely are looking at how we can activate our regional network in a much more, I would say, coherent manner, where we exist in 7 locations definitely, but building the bridges between these locations is what we have been doing for the last 10 years, and we see that we can definitely make this link between all the different countries we're operating much faster. Our regional ambition will continue to take place, but definitely we are looking geographically, to maybe expand Flat6Labs into other emerging markets. We believe that there's a lot that we can add in the African market. Hani has a new saying where we covered Abu Dhabi to Tunis. Now we need to see what we can do from Cairo to Cape Town. So definitely I would say the next 10 years we'll see Flat6Labs growing across the African continent. And also I think we learned a lot from the pandemic over the last 2 years in terms of technology and delivering our value remotely and virtually. So we'd like to use technology in a much more efficient way to deliver our value to reach a larger number of entrepreneurs over the next 10 years. So yeah, I think that will be our focus.
Wow, I wish us all the best, actually. Thank you guys so much for your time today, and I hope everyone enjoyed this fireside chat. Gentle reminder that if you would like to download the 10-year impact report of Flat6Labs, you're going to find it at our website. And thank you so much. Have a great day.